Right now, there are systems protecting almost every part of your life. Your passwords, your messages, your bank account, your photos, your private conversations. Most people never think about them because they're invisible, quiet, constant, always running in the background. And because of that, people assume they're safe. But the truth is, none of these systems are actually unbreakable. They never were. They only exist because breaking them takes too much time. That's it. The entire foundation of modern digital security depends on one assumption: that certain calculations are too difficult for computers to solve quickly. And for decades, that assumption held everything together. Governments relied on it, banks relied on it, military systems relied on it, the internet itself was built around it. But now, for the first time in history, that assumption may be starting to fail. Not because of a virus, not because of hackers, but because of a type of technology that behaves in ways we still don't fully understand. A system built around particles that were once considered impossible. A machine designed to solve problems in a completely different way. And if it works, the consequences won't be limited to laboratories or research centers. It could affect everything connected to the digital world, quietly, without warning. Because unlike cyber attacks, this wouldn't look dramatic at first. No explosions, no blackouts, no obvious collapse. Just systems slowly becoming exposed. Passwords becoming vulnerable. Encrypted files becoming readable. Private information becoming accessible. And most people would have no idea it was happening. But what makes this even stranger is that the idea behind all of this started nearly a century ago, with a physicist who vanished without explanation, and a particle that, according to modern physics, shouldn't even exist. For most of human history, information had physical limits: a locked room, a hidden document, a classified archive. If someone wanted access to something protected, they had to physically reach it. But the digital world changed that. Now, entire governments can exist inside servers. Financial systems move through invisible networks. Private lives are stored in data centers thousands of miles away. And all of it depends on encryption, a barrier most people never see and barely understand. But if that barrier starts to fail, the consequences won't stay online. They become real. Bank accounts, hospitals, power grids, military infrastructure, communication systems, everything connected becomes vulnerable. And the strange part is, this isn't science fiction anymore, because some of the largest technology companies on Earth are already racing to build systems powerful enough to challenge those protections. And that particle became the foundation for one of the strangest technological races in modern history. Because for decades, scientists weren't trying to build a faster computer. They were trying to build a different kind of computer, one that doesn't process information the way normal machines do. Traditional computers, including the one you're watching this on right now, work using bits, tiny electrical signals that can only exist in one of two states, 0 or 1. Everything inside the digital world, from social media to military systems, ultimately depends on those binary decisions. Billions and billions of tiny switches turning on and off every second. But quantum systems behave differently. At extremely small scales, particles stop following the rules we experience in everyday life. They can exist in multiple states at once. They can influence each other across distances. And sometimes they behave in ways that seem almost impossible. For years, this sounded more like science fiction than engineering. The problem wasn't just understanding quantum physics, it was controlling it, because quantum systems are incredibly unstable. The smallest vibration, a slight temperature change, even tiny amounts of interference can destroy the calculation instantly. And that became one of the biggest obstacles in quantum computing. Not power, stability. Researchers could create quantum states, but keeping them alive long enough to do anything useful was a completely different challenge. Some systems survived for seconds, others failed almost immediately. And for years, many experts believed large-scale quantum computing might never actually work, at least not in a practical way. But then, some researchers started focusing on a much stranger idea: What if the solution wasn't building better protection around fragile quantum systems, but creating particles that were naturally resistant to failure? That's where Majorana entered the picture again. Because according to the original theory, a Majorana particle has unusual properties that make it far more stable than normal quantum states. And stability is everything. Without it, quantum computers become unreliable. With it, they become dangerous. Because a stable quantum system could solve certain calculations dramatically faster than traditional computers ever could. Calculations that modern encryption depends on. And suddenly, the conversation around quantum computing changed completely. This was no longer just about scientific progress. It became a geopolitical race. Governments started investing billions. Private companies entered the competition. And intelligence agencies quietly began preparing for a future where current encryption methods might no longer protect sensitive information. Some experts even warned about something called "harvest now, decrypt later," a strategy based on a simple idea: steal encrypted data today, store it, and wait for quantum systems powerful enough to break it in the future. Which means some of the information being collected right now may already be intended for a world that doesn't exist yet. And that's what makes this situation so unsettling, because quantum computing isn't arriving all at once. There won't be a single moment where everything suddenly changes overnight. It will happen slowly, quietly, one breakthrough at a time. A new material, a more stable system, a longer computation, and eventually a machine capable of doing things that were previously considered impossible. Which brings us back to Microsoft, because when the company revealed Majorana 1, the announcement wasn't just about a new processor. Buried inside the technical language was something far more important. Microsoft claimed they had developed a new state of matter, specifically designed to stabilize quantum systems, something known as topological superconductivity, a material state so unusual that it behaves differently from conventional matter itself. And according to Microsoft, this could become the foundation for scalable quantum computing, not decades from now, but potentially much sooner than expected. And that's the part most people still don't fully understand. Majorana 1 isn't dangerous because it already broke encryption. It's dangerous because it suggests we may be getting closer to machines that eventually can. And once that happens, the world won't simply upgrade overnight, because modern encryption isn't protecting just one thing. It protects almost everything: financial systems, military communications, government databases, medical records, private conversations, satellite infrastructure, cloud storage, power grids. The modern world runs on the assumption that sensitive information can remain inaccessible to the wrong people. And if that assumption disappears, the consequences become difficult to predict. Some cybersecurity researchers have already started warning companies to prepare for what they call the post-quantum era, a future where current encryption standards may no longer be reliable. And what makes this transition even more unsettling is how invisible it will probably feel at first. Most people won't wake up one morning and suddenly realize quantum computing has changed the world. There won't be alarms in the streets, no dramatic collapse, no visible sign that something fundamental has shifted. Instead, it will happen quietly. Banks updating their security systems, governments replacing old encryption protocols, technology companies redesigning infrastructure behind the scenes, entire digital systems evolving without most people ever noticing why. And by the time the public fully understands what changed, the transition may already be over. But encryption is only part of the story, because if scalable quantum computing actually becomes practical, its effects could extend far beyond cybersecurity. New materials could be discovered faster, complex diseases could potentially be simulated in ways traditional computers can't handle, artificial intelligence systems could become dramatically more powerful. Scientific research that currently takes years might eventually take days or hours, which is why companies like Microsoft, Google, and IBM have invested so heavily into this field. Not because quantum computing is useful today, but because whoever solves the stability problem first could reshape entire industries. And that brings us back to the strange detail hidden underneath all of this: the idea that one of the most important technological breakthroughs of the century may have started with a theory proposed by a physicist who vanished nearly 100 years ago. Ettore Majorana disappeared in 1938, Some believed he took his own life. Others believed he intentionally vanished. And over time, his disappearance became one of the greatest mysteries in the history of physics. But while the man disappeared, his idea survived, quietly moving through decades of theoretical physics until modern technology finally caught up with it. And now, nearly a century later, one of the largest technology companies on Earth claims it may have turned that theory into reality. Not inside a physics paper, not inside a laboratory experiment, but inside a processor designed to change computing itself. And whether Majorana 1 ultimately succeeds or fails, the race it represents has already begun. Governments know it, technology companies know it, intelligence agencies know it, and little by little, the systems protecting the digital world are already starting to evolve around that future. Because for the first time in history, humanity may be approaching a machine capable of solving problems that were previously considered practically impossible. And if that happens, the balance between privacy, security, and power may change permanently. Not with an explosion, not with a warning, but quietly, in the background, exactly the way modern systems already operate today. And the strange part is, most people still have no idea it's happening.